A lot of information, cool. But where do we start, really? How do I get from, I don't have anything, to there? Draw a quick sketch. Basically, what is the rough shape of your property? If you don't have a property yet, no problem, just make a square. Put your house in the center, okay? That's normally where people put houses anyway. And start at your doorstep. So where's the back door? You got a front door, you got a back door. Even if they're not exactly perfect, they're still in the front and the back, right? So assume that your back door is to the left-hand side of the back of your house. Well, from there, you're going to put in a kitchen garden because probably you want to grow your own food. So now I have the door and the access into the garden. Well, what do you want your garden to look like? For instance, would you like it to be a mandala garden? Would you like it to be square foot gardening? Would you like it to be keyhole gardening? You can pick your particular design that you would like. It's up to you. You want to do permaponics? Next, how are you going to walk through it? Are you going to have a tree pathways? Are you going to have linear square pathways? What would you like? Okay. Next, what's the next element? If you like to have a compost toilet, well, I can put the compost toilet where in relationship to my back door and my garden. Am I going to have chickens? Where would I like my chicken coop to be? If I have a food forest, my food forest is on typically touches our garden, but where would we like it to be? And by the way, a food forest is typically 3 to 4 times the size of your garden. Food forest is not necessarily for selling, it's just for my personal consumption, right? So that gives you a relationship to the size of my garden to about the size of my food forest. So that's where we start. Very simple. That was the house, right guys? That was in those bubble diagrams. It was a rectangle with a house. Then you just went around and drew those things to finally get to that final drawing, just listing the notes that I do through research, not much more. So first thing, visit your site for your first impressions. You need to understand the climate, the landform, your water, vegetation, access, microclimates, any buildings that are existing, any infrastructure that might exist like electricity or water or gas. What are the zones of use that you would like to do on your plan? Would you like to have a garden? Would you like to have a food forest? Would you like to have maybe a pond for recreational purposes or thing? Would you like to have an orchard? Would you like to have a wood lot? These are the zones of your usage. Or would you like to have, I don't know if you want horses. Where is the pasture, right? Think about all of the aesthetics or qualities that you might like. What type of beauty would you like to embody? I like to think about that as my theme. What is my theme? Legal issues. Make sure if you want to do natural building or something like that, that you are legally okay. If you want to have a facility that makes noise, make sure that's legally okay, right? These are things that we need to understand. After, what are the landowner comments? If you're a consultant, right, and you make your particular first pass drawing of their goals, then you need to submit it to them before you get too far. Make sure they're okay with it, right? So that's like your first, please tell me your goals. Cool. I see your land. Let me present something to you. It's very rough. Once you sign off on that, I'll go through the final stages of making it really pretty. I'm not going to spend all that time if you didn't accept where the placement of the elements were, right? But when it's not you do that with yourself, right? So make sure you get everything set nice before you draw that final drawing. If you start on the final drawing and then change your mind, you're going to waste a lot of time. Wouldn't want to do that as a consultant, and you don't want to do it to yourself. Are there any other important things that you would like to add? Permaculture is all-encompassing. So if it's a holistic concept, I would like to have a place to do my practice of yoga meditation, then where is your shala going to be, right? In relationship to, say, your garden. Is it in the center of your garden? Is it on the edge of your garden? Would you like to put it in the center of the food forest? That might be really nice, things like that. What other observations did you make on that design when you were doing it? So go back and check your observations, your first impressions. So once you get your design done, go back and review your first impressions. That list of the first things. That's going to help us to make sure we're on track before we finished our final design. So cool. Consider the whole time ethics and principles. Do you have them written down yet? If not, go to, I keep using the same one, he's going to love me, right? Permacultureprinciples.com. But hey, that's David Holgram's website, and he's a founder of Permaculture, so who if you're going to plug somebody, might as well plug the man, right? So there you go. Go there, and he has a beautiful website, and you can get a snapshot of those principles. And I did the intro to them. He does them in a lot more depth, right? So go check it out. So check that. Keep them in mind all the time. Create a goal outline. What is your scenario? What is your vision? Be specific about your goals articulation summary. And always remember, guys, a goal without a plan is just a wish. How many hippies come here and tell me all the things they wish? Never do nothing. Don't have a plan. Not going to get from point A to point B. Just wish the world would get better. Come on, guys, let's make a plan. If you want the world to get better, start in your garden. You want to make a change? Start in your garden. You want things to change? Grow your own food. That will empower you. Then you can make changes. We have to get off of their system in order to change the system. If we will never leave the system, how would it change? We have to start, and the place to start is at your back door in your garden. So rough out your base map. There's that house again. Roughing out just the elements that I decided that I would like to have, little bubbles, not to scale, basically where I think they would fit in my backyard, very small, just a normalized backyard. And I lay out those elements. So rough it out and do your site assessment. Make your notes, guys. Don't be afraid to write down notes. Notes will help you, and you can always review back to your notes to remember what I was thinking at that point in time. Yeah, if I don't have any notes or I throw them away, and I'll come back later, I don't know what I was thinking, right? So they help us. Do a functional analysis of each of those elements. So if you said you want this, what is your analysis? For every design element, consider its products. What does it make? Its behaviors. How does it work? Its needs. What do I need to provide for it to thrive? Its intrinsic characteristics. How do I describe it? What are the adjectives associated with it? So if I was to take a chicken, right, and some people would say, well, I just want egg, that's it. Yeah, but chicken does so much more than just make an egg, guys. So we could think about its needs. What are all the things a chicken needs? So I have that on the left side. It needs shelter, it needs grit, it needs dust, it needs water, it needs air, it needs food. And you know what? A chicken needs other chickens. They're a social animal, okay? Don't isolate the chicken. What about products and behaviors? What do chickens do? Well, chickens can make eggs. They can make meat. They also can produce feathers. They have manure, which is highly valuable in our gardens. They also make methane, just like every other animal. They produce CO2 in the process. They have scratching. Yeah, they do that as a natural behavior. They do foraging. They can go and find their own food. That's very interesting. And they can fly, and they also like to fight. These are things that I could list as characteristics that I can see are behaviors of chickens, naturalized behaviors. They also have intrinsic characteristics, things that I could describe about chickens and how they maybe look or aesthetically. They have different breeds, so I can classify breeds of chicken by how they act. We could look at the colors, different colors of chickens. Some people like ornamental chickens. Climate tolerances. Some chickens are more appropriate for hot climates and others more appropriate for temperate or cold climates. So you might want a breed that likes it, if you live in a temperate climate, that can survive a temperate climate. And we have breed-specific behaviors. Certain chickens lay eggs better, so that's an egg-laying chicken, versus this broiler, which might be a meat chicken. And if I'm a permaculturalist and I really don't want to have too many meat chickens, and I don't want to have too many egg chickens, right? I might have a dual-purpose chicken. So those are a breed that gives eggs, and at the end of its life, it's not wore out, so you could still eat the chicken at the end of its life cycle, okay? And then that way I could have less chickens. I don't have to have meat chickens and egg chickens. I have a dual-purpose chicken. Ask pertinent questions about your design elements. So once you write down, and remember I recommended a page in your book for each element. So you have your notebook, and I write down that element that I want, and then write down things about it that I'm learning. So what are some pertinent questions? Like, for example, what kind of soil does a particular plant like? So if I have my garden, and I go in my garden, and then I write down the list of plants that I want to grow, because I grow what I eat, and I eat what I grow, then I need to start learning about that particular plant, and I need to learn what it needs. What are the needs of that plant? What's the characteristics of that plant? What's the behaviors? What are some companion plants for that? And how much sunlight does it need? For instance, I can decide where to place it in my garden. Is it in the shady area? Full sunlight? Yeah, these are type of things. So research and action. This is what you need to take. So take action on your elements, do your research, and this is actually the fun part of permaculture when you start to learn more about the, say, biology. you start to learn more about these features, both plants and animals. Make an overall observation and an interpretation. What's already there, or what can I do with it if it's there? What could I do with this? I removed your ego, and it turns out that was all that was clogging your reality, because I've been called egotistical many times in my life, but I find it really funny. How is a successful person egotistical, and how is an unsuccessful person not? It's just one of those little brain tweezers right there for you guys. Just think about it. So identify local resources. Yeah? What community and economic resources are available to help with your design and the mission for your site? You don't need to do it all yourself. You have friends, you have family, you have community, and there's lots of people out there that want a sustainable future. Go ask, go integrate, go collect that, what we call network. What is your network? How are you going to integrate in that network? And people are willing to help you if you ask. These might include markets, farms, restaurants, sawmills, breweries, dumps, everything. Remember to look for those resources. You'll be really surprised how people, some businesses particularly, do not value certain things. And or if you ask, they would be more than happy to provide you with something. So I have a community garden. I'm doing this. Would you be happy to help support me? Sure, we do have a department. Come over here. You can have that. Makes us look good, and you get that. There you go. Come up with a design concept, guys. This is a flow diagram. These are all the elements that I might want to place in my design. This is not to scale, and this is not exactly where they're laid out. This is just helping me to see the inputs and outputs of the farm. Starts with sun. You know, I could even end there with carbon credits, right? If so, the world changes. And so I got sun, I have wind, that all comes through my farm. I rotate energy through all the systems, and it comes out as a product, okay? This one called the dream farm, right? What does that mean? What transformations will be taking place? How do I take raw energy, the sun and wind and rain? That's all I got, 3 things. And how do I transform that to a mango? What do I need to do in order to get sun, wind, and rain to turn into a mango? I have processes that I need to perform. I need to plant my tree. Maybe I need a nursery. I need to collect manures. So maybe I need an animal system. I need to learn how to prune things. So I have to skill up, right? And if I do these things over a period of time, I get this really high value resource. Yeah? Reasonably for free. Create a schematic design. So here's a nice little schematic design. It's not really perfectly to scale, but it will represent what's going on. Okay? Make sketches, make bubble diagrams that focus on functions of elements and the relationships between them. Really try to focus on writing down the relationship between each element and why you placed that element there next to that element. Why did you do that? Why did you make that decision? This is where permaculture really differentiates from being a lot of other design sciences, because it asks you to say why. Not just the answer, it's there. That's really great, I'm happy. Why? Why did you put the answer there? I'm happy you have the answer, you want that. Everybody wants everything. But why do you want it? Why do you need it? And how about this one? Write down a list. Put wants, put needs. How about we put needs first? What do you need? I really need this. If I don't have this, I will die. And what do I want? How about trying to take some of these things that you're going to actually be wants, and you're going to put them in the need column? And you keep getting that and saying, well, that's actually, I really want it. I don't necessarily need it. And then if we can get that down, right, we can work on that. It's a really good thing. You go to the grocery store, look at the thing. It's really better if you have a wife. I do this with Len all the time. Babe, you want that or you need it? But my wife got really smart. Now you know what she says to me? Hey, babe, you want that or you need it? So do we need that for the farm, or we just want that? And it helps us to reduce our consumption by saying, I don't need that. Begin your master plan. So after I have that, I can start to put together the master plan. Decide what elements will definitely be used. Because at this point, you may have a list of elements longer than you actually have free time. So what am I definitely going to do? Remember, we have phases. So really try to whittle it down to a realistic, what am I going to do in phase 1? Right? If I finish phase 1, Think about it like a gate. If I get to the end of phase 1, I can open the gate, but only if I finished phase 1, right? Then I can walk into the phase 2. But I can only open phase 3 if I finish phase 2. I can't do those things in phase 3. Like the exciting things that people come here and say, hey, Bo, man, it would be really cool if we put up a zip line. Then we could zip line into the pond. And I said, you know, it'd be really cool if we grew more food. And when I have all my food, I might get a zip line, you know? But right now, if I went and worked on a zip line for the next 2 weeks, I'm not working on my permaponics. Now, both of them will work, but one of them is going to get me more food, and the other is entertainment. And we can still jump in the water, you know? We can still swim. We can still have a good time. And maybe someday we'll get a zip line, you know? But these are the type of things. Be really careful about what's the priority, the zip line or your garden. When you get your garden going good, by all means, get a zip line, right? But these are type of things. By the way, for the ladies there, I did put a picture of a permastud. And there are permaculture dating websites, so you can check out Permies.com, and there's a little section, you know, you read that little thing, and it's, hey, perma dude, 40 acres, already started my garden, building with cob. Looking for perma babe. Actually, he writes perma hose, but, you know, I'm just saying. Okay, so that's the dude. Yeah, so, you know, read the poem, This Is Our Life. If you work on it, he will come. There you go. So draw up your final drawing. So this is a final drawing. It's nice. Definitely the person is more artistic than me. The point I put this here, it's fine. If you can draw artistically, as long as you are conveying your message about where the elements are placed, and then you can talk about why I placed that element there, that's what we're trying to get across. More so why. Okay? Then when we go to lay it out in real life, we can measure those things. So create an accurate 2-scale map of the final design, which depicts the size, shape, and location of the patches or zones and elements that we laid out in our schematic designs. So our schematics lay out where the elements we want to place. And then finally, when we're happy with all our sketches, we draw that final design. There we go. Determine the phases of implementation. So that design might not be finished until 10 years. It takes 10 years to get to there. But how did I get there? So phase 1 might be the first 1 to 2 years. What do I do in the first year to the second year? What do I do in year 3 to 5, right? What do I do year 6 to 10, 10 to 25? Maybe that plan is at 25 years. All the trees are mature. All of my systems are in. All of my housing facilities are built. And basically, I'm retired. I'm sitting back. I'm going in my food forest. I'm just basically on harvest, you know? That's what I do each day. I go outside, do a little trimming from my work. I get some food. I come back, and that's what I do. But because I put in the plan, right, to make that become a reality, I didn't just wish. I did. So present it to your client. What is their client, and who is your client? Is it you? Is it your parents? Is it investors? Is it a community? I'm trying to get people to join my community. Am I looking for a grant? These would all be different presentations that might be presented in different ways based on the same, say, design. But that's the end of that, and we'll move on to another section. So we're going to move forward a little bit and get to like a little bit more detail. So we got now seeing some people's representations of designs. Good, very macro. But how do we get into the micro? How do we start drilling down into systems and elements? So that's what I want to start seeing. What is a system? And how do we break systems into components to build a system? And then if we can get those together, we start putting them together. And when I get all those together, I have that design. Because each one of those designs was showing systems, like your garden, for instance.